now. And so we'll start with our first presenter, Lisa. So Lisa's interest in food and agriculture stemmed from visiting her grandfather's farm in rural Germany during the summer, helping her parents garden and cooking with her family. This upbringing led her to pursue an education in food systems at San Francisco State University, where she majored in family and consumer sciences with an emphasis in nutrition. After graduating, Lisa continued to volunteer farmers markets and gain valuable hands-on experience while working as an info booth volunteer vendor and eventually assistant manager of one of San Francisco's busiest SNAP EBT markets. This valuable experience motivated Lisa to pursue a career in food access that's supporting SNAP and farmers markets and local farms. Lisa is currently delighted to be part of MarketLink team as a regional representative. Her favorite part of the job is her phone calls with individuals who reach out for technical assistance. She loves being able to connect to farmers and market managers throughout the country and hear from her perspective. Outside of MarketLink, Lisa supports local food by shopping at Alameda Farmers Market in San Francisco, California's first official farmers market. In her free time, she usually bikes, hikes through local parks, cooks at home, visits friends, or works on many art projects. So before I turn on Lisa, I should have introduced myself. I'm Dr. Trent Blair. I'm an assistant professor in food and resource economics at the University of Florida, and I'm based in Homestead at the Tropical Research and Education Center, but support a lot of these efforts, and I'm very happy to have these two ladies with us today. So Lisa, you can take it from here.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, let me pull up my presentation here. And okay, everybody can see my presentation?
Yes.
All right. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. As Trent said, I am a regional representative with MarketLink, and today I'm excited to share more about our program and how we help farms and farmers markets become SNAP authorized. Thank you again to Trent and the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences for hosting me today and helping get the word out about our program. So here's a quick agenda of what we'll cover during my short presentation. I'll first give you all some context and history about the MarketLink program. I'll then cover the steps in the MarketLink process and what it means to be eligible for our equipment grant. I'll then give an overview of what the SNAP program is and the benefits of accepting this program. Next, I will give you an overview of what to expect on the SNAP application process and how we help you through it. And lastly, I will cover the point of sale equipment that is covered through our grant. And after Delia and I go, we will have times for Q&A at the end. So feel free to put them in the chat or save them until the end of the presentation. All right, so to start us off, a little background about our grant program. So MarketLink is not an organization itself, but it is a program of our parent organization that is called the National Association of Farmers Market Nutrition Programs, or NAFMNP for short. NAFMNP is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1992, along with the creation of the Farmers Market Nutrition Programs, which you may know as WIC or senior vouchers. You can see an example of what these look like at the bottom of the slide, but they may currently be on a card in your state as they are slowly making the transition to electronic payments. NAFMNP's main purpose is to run a membership organization that connects state agencies, the District of Columbia, Indian tribal organizations, and territories with a shared mission. They do this by managing an online platform where members can connect to one another, network, share tips, and answer each other's questions. They also host webinars, sign-up days, and an annual conference. To show how expansive the NAFMNP network is, here's some numbers. So they currently operate in, there's currently 86 of these programs in 45 US states, territories, and Indian tribal organizations. This includes over 39,000 farmers, markets, roadside stands, and CSAs that accept FMNP. And altogether, they provide benefits to over 2 million people. The mission of NAFMP is to cultivate opportunities for consumers to buy fresh produce from local growers. All right, so that brings us back to MarketLink. As I mentioned, we are a program of NAFMP. We are funded through a USDA grant, which was first awarded to us in 2013 and again in 2019, which is the one we are currently in. The grant was written to specifically help farms and farmers markets accept SNAP EBT. We are partnered with a company called Novadia Group that developed an app called TotalPayGo. This app is used with a Bluetooth card reader to process SNAP EBT transactions. Our grant covers 1 year of this app and a Bluetooth card reader. In addition to providing equipment, MarketLink also helps farms and farmers markets through the SNAP application and is here to answer any questions regarding SNAP free of charge. Our main project right now is the SNAP EBT Technical Assistance Grant, but we also have a couple other projects in the works that I'll mention quickly. So the first is adding all food assistance programs to the TotalPayGo app, including EWIC, EFMP, and e-incentives. We are also working on a customer-facing app where customers can access their benefits on an app instead of through their card. And then the other really exciting project is we're also currently working on online SNAP. So hopefully within the next few months, we will be accepting applications for farmers to accept SNAP online. If you'd like to stay up with these programs, we do have a newsletter that I can share in the chat, or you can reach out to us directly with questions about these programs. And of course, another great way is just to follow us on social media. All our handles are listed here, but they can also be found on our website. So now I'll cover the steps in the MarketLink process. I'll go more into detail about each of these, but this is just to give you an overview to get us started. So step 1 is to complete the eligibility assessment on our website. This is mainly to determine if you're eligible for the free equipment, but this also gets you connected to a regional representative. We encourage anyone to apply, even if they're not sure if they're eligible, because we can still, again, help with SNAP application guidance. Step 2 is if you're not already, then you would need to become SNAP authorized with the USDA, either on your own or with our assistance. Step 3 is if you are eligible for the equipment, you would get set up with a TotalPayGo account. And step 4 is your card reader will be shipped to you and you'll be ready to activate the app on your phone or tablet, and you'll be ready to accept SNAP. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, the first step is to determine if you're eligible by filling out the eligibility assessment on our website. The main components of eligibility are your business type and whether you've utilized an equipment grant already. So the business types that are eligible are direct marketing farmers and farmers markets as defined by the USDA. So the USDA defines a direct marketing farmer as an individual producer of agricultural products that they sell directly to the public. They also need to have at least 50% of their total retail sales come from products they grow themselves. So that means it's okay if you buy things occasionally from other growers, as long as the majority of your sales are from what you produce yourself. A farmer's market is defined by the USDA as 2 or more agricultural producers, so meaning farmers, selling their own products directly to the public at a fixed location. So again, this means it needs to be in the same place every week. It can't move around and it can't be a mobile truck. So we just like to say basically a traditional farmer's market. Who is not eligible is any business that would not be a direct marketing farmer or a farmer's market, or any direct marketing farmer or farmer's market that's utilized our equipment grant already, so since October 19, or if you're currently using a state-funded program, if Florida had funding through the state. But if you're unsure, you're welcome to contact us and we can help you determine if you're eligible before applying. But even if you're not eligible for the grant-funded equipment, we can still help in a lot of ways. So again, regardless of if you're eligible, we can still help guide you through the SNAP application. If you are grant eligible, you can get that free year of the TotalPayGo app and the Bluetooth card reader. But if you're not eligible, that equipment is also available for purchase, or we can provide you with assistance on where to look into for other places that provide equipment. The printer waiver here refers to a waiver that is specific to our grant. That means you are not required to provide printed receipts, which retailers normally are. The TotalPayGo app has the option to provide a text or emailed receipt, so this saves money on needing to buy printer paper and a more expensive printer. If you get equipment through our grant, we can connect you to trainings on how to use it. But again, if you're not grant eligible, we can still advise you of what options are out there. And finally, again, we're just here to answer any questions you may have about accepting SNAP, regardless of eligibility. So before I get into step 2, which is SNAP application, I'd first like to give a little background of the SNAP program and some of the benefits of accepting SNAP. So for those who don't know, SNAP stands for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. So this means supplemental funding to help someone pay for food to feed themselves or their family. People qualify based on income and household factors, meaning how much money you make and how many people are in your household. The actual amount an individual can receive varies state by state, so we usually refer folks to their local health and human service office to see if they qualify. The foods that can be purchased with SNAP are pretty much any food that can be taken home to feed yourself and your family. So of course, this includes produce, breads, grains, meat products, and baked goods. But this also includes processed foods like jams, jelly, even honey, pickles, juice, and even plants and seeds that will produce food. What is not allowed is any non-food item, alcohol products, or any hot or cold ready-to-eat foods that are prepared on site. So like sandwiches, salads, things like that. So why would a business want to accept SNAP? There's a few reasons, but a main one, of course, is that it brings a new customer base, bringing increased sales to your business. So SNAP is an over $100 billion program, and of that, currently less than 0.12% is being spent at farms and farmers markets. This, of course, is why our grant exists and why we're helping to increase this number, but it also theorized that a lot of participants simply don't know that this is an option for them. So by accepting SNAP at your farm or farmer's market, you're helping get the word out about the program, and again, opening up possible additional sales from these customers. SNAP is also an excellent companion program to FNMP, such as WIC or senior vouchers, because not only does it reach different customers, but as I mentioned in the last slide, there's a much greater variety of food that is available to be purchased, where WIC and FNMP are limited to certain items. So as you can see in this graph here, this is the funding that goes into SNAP and FMMP. The bottom line is the funding that goes into FMMP, and the purple line on the top is the funding that goes into SNAP. So you can see from this graph that since 2020, there has been a huge increase in SNAP benefits as an unfortunate result of the pandemic. So again, by accepting SNAP, you're helping everybody in your community recover from, needless to say, a very difficult time for all of us. And here's some data specific to Florida versus nationwide. So Florida is pretty consistent in terms of overall participation, but has a higher participation of families with older or disabled adults. Out of the other participants, 60% comes from families with children, and 37% comes from working families. You may be wondering why the working families is on the lower side, but that is because in this overall data, they're including individuals who are unable to work, such as children or older or disabled adults. But overall, this slide is to show that by accepting SNAP, you are helping individuals and families who are working to get out of poverty or who are already in vulnerable populations. So I'd like to end this section with some of the additional benefits of accepting SNAP, which include improving food access, building a sense of community, improving the health and well-being of your shoppers, and creating unique opportunities for marketing your business. Okay, so that brings us to the SNAP application. So to become a SNAP authorized retailer with the USDA, you first need to apply online on their website. The application is about 5 pages and can take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to fill out. So this slide doesn't cover everything, but it gives you an overview of the main things it will ask for. So the first thing is basic information about your farm or market, which includes where it's located, the name, legal business name, and hours you are open to the public. Next, it will ask for the responsible official information, which refers to the person who is taking responsibility for the SNAP program and will make sure it's being used correctly. This person needs to be someone with the legal authority to sign legal documents on behalf of the farm or market. So this, of course, can depend on how your business is structured, but in general, this needs to be the owner, executive director, or board member, or someone in similar authority. Next, it will ask for sales and inventory, meaning what your business actually sells to the public. If you're a farm, this needs to be more accurate and based on actual sales data. But if you're a farmer's market, of course, it's okay to estimate because the USDA understands that farmers markets don't typically keep track of all their vendors' inventory and sales. But this requirement is mostly to determine if you meet what's called the stocking requirements that the USDA requires for a business to accept SNAP. This means you need to sell enough what's called staple foods at your business. Staple foods are things like produce, meat products, dairy products, and breads, grains, and cereals. I don't have time to go into all the details about this, but the USDA does have a pretty thorough webpage about this that I'd be happy to share. And lastly, the banking information. So this means the name and address of your bank you're planning to use. It does not ask for a checking or routing number. After you submit the application, for your application to officially be complete, the next step is to upload what's called the supporting documents. So these are documents to verify the responsible official's identity and certify your application. Again, this depends on how your business is structured, but most often these are the documents it will ask for. So that includes a photo ID, a social security card, a signature page, and a business license if your city or state requires you to operate with one. If you're a nonprofit, you'll need to provide a determination letter or articles of incorporation. After your application and supporting documents are complete, then it's just about waiting to hear back from the USDA. It usually helps to check on your application at least once a week to make sure it's moving along and to check for additional information requests. Additional information requests are letters or emails the USDA will sometimes send to verify any information about your business. It's good to look out for these because if you miss one, the USDA can actually pull your application for being incomplete. But hopefully they don't ask for any additional information and your application just gets approved. Once you're approved, you'll be notified by email and will get a package in the mail. Altogether, the process can take as little as 2 weeks, up to 2 months at the most. But the more you follow up with it and keep up with it, the quicker you will get approved. So if you're a farmer's market, there is a couple more steps you need to take to accept SNAP. So once you're approved for SNAP, this means that the market as a whole is authorized versus each individual vendor. So you're going to need to figure out how you're going to implement the program. The most common way is to have a central info booth for a customer to access their benefits. The market staff person would swipe the customer's card for any amount they choose. The funds would then be transferred from the customer's account to the farmer's market account. The market staff person would then hand the customer the tokens and they would go spend those at eligible vendors at the market. At the end of the day, the vendors would bring those tokens back and be reimbursed by the market. So depending on the relationship you have with your vendors, you can do this the same day, a week later, a month. Again, depends on how much SNAP you're doing. So you'll need to figure out how you're going to distribute the benefits. You can use wooden tokens, metal ones, or paper script. And you also need to decide how you're going to reimburse your vendors, whether that be cash, check, or setting up an ACH system. You also need to decide how you're going to keep records and how you're going to staff this program. This can be a lot and can be intimidated, but I mostly wanted to include this slide to say there are a ton of guides out there that go into a lot of detail about implementing at farmers markets. I've collected quite a few. I've also worked at a farmers market and have direct experience. So if you have questions about this, I'd be happy to send you guides or go more in detail. But alternatively, if you just want to get all your vendors authorized instead, so they accept SNAP directly at their booths, you can send them to us as well. For anyone who's not a farm or farmer's market on the call, you may be wondering how the application will look different for you. Unfortunately, there are a lot of nuances that I don't have time to get into because it generally depends on your type of business again and how it's structured. But I wanted to include this slide that gives an overview of the most common ways, common businesses that I've come across. So the first thing that will affect how you apply is if your business is in one location or if you move around. If your business is stationary, meaning you have a brick and mortar, you may apply as a grocery store, produce market, or even a food hub. These applications are generally pretty straightforward and pretty similar to the process I have just covered in the previous slides. We also have a quick overview guide that I'd be happy to send to anyone interested. However, if your business is mobile, meaning you set up in one spot and break down at the end of the day, or set up in multiple locations, have a mobile food truck, you may be considered a delivery route by the USDA. Unfortunately, these applications are very complicated and require a lot of paperwork. If you're a nonprofit, the USDA will require slightly less paperwork, but in general, it can take a long time to get authorized. We do have guides that give you, again, an overview of what would be needed that I'd be happy to send anyone to see if they want to attempt this process. That all being said, we do use our time for non-direct marketing farmers and farmers markets, but we do have limited capacity. We prioritize any business that is working directly with local farmers or who has a food access minded mission. Either way, reach out to me and we can provide guidance or answer questions on how to get started. And I'm about over time, so I'm going to quickly go through the rest of this. So now that you have an idea of what to expect on the application, I'll quickly cover the ways in which we help through the process. The first option is to fill it out on your own. So this means you will create a USDA login, submit the application and the supporting documents on your own. We have instructional guides that can walk you through each step of the process. These guides also have our contact info, so you can reach out to us if you get stuck or have questions. But the second option is to have a MarketLink representative submit the application on your behalf. So this means you would book a phone call appointment with us. We'd gather all your information, MarketLink would submit and upload the supporting documents for you. The main benefits to this option is it allows us to double check on it for you, make sure everything's filled out correctly, and even follow up with the USDA on your behalf. If you're interested in this option, either reach out to me and let me know, or head to our website and apply for MarketLink, and you'll get an automated email with the next steps. And then lastly, of course, once you've been approved for SNAP, you'll be ready to get a point of sale device. And I'll quickly cover the equipment that MarketLink provides. So through our grant, the first thing we cover is a 1-year subscription to a the app called TotalPay Go that you would download on your phone or tablet that you use for your business. You would then pair this app to the second piece we provide, the Bluetooth card reader, and use the app together to process transactions. This slide shows what the app looks like, and on the right side is the card reader. If you're familiar with Square, that gives you an idea because they're very similar. So this means you'd need to provide your own smartphone or tablet to run the TotalPay Go app on. This can be your personal device or any device you already use for your business. It doesn't matter what carrier you use or if it's an Android or Apple device. As long as it has Bluetooth, most recent software update, and access to Wi-Fi or data, you should be good to go. And I'm just going to quickly say the app also has options for credit and debit that I'd be happy to share a flyer with about or go over with you. But if you'd like to learn more about them, they have a website as well. And I will just end by saying, we are here to help through all steps of the process. To get started, you can go to marketlink.org or contact me directly. And I'll share this in the chat too, because I'm over time, so I will end there.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks a lot, Lisa. If I will introduce our next speaker, so we can keep on time. Delia is a regional coordinator for Feeding Florida's Nutrition Incentive Program, Fresh Access Bucks, FAB. She provides training and support for new and existing partners in Northwest and Central Florida, and also provides general programmatic support. In addition, Delia manages all of the research and evaluation programs for the FAB program. Before joining the FAB team, Delia spent several years coordinating and managing large-scale educational outreach programs. She was also the founder of Gainesville Veg Fest and has served as a volunteer with the Grace Grows Community Food Project, a project that engaged local community members in a participatory research process to identify resources, opportunities, and innovative solutions to issues surrounding community food access, food sovereignty, and food justice. Delia is passionate about food systems work and is currently pursuing her PhD at the University of Florida in the Department of Agricultural Education and Communication, Go Gators, where her dissertation research is focused on food and nutrition security in the state of Florida. So we thank you very much for joining us. I just remind everyone there'll be time at the end for more questions once Delia finishes her presentation.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Trent. I appreciate it. And Lisa, would you mind stop sharing so I could share my screen, please? Thank you so much. Does everyone see that okay? Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here this morning and to talk to y'all a little bit more about Fresh Access Bucks, or FAB for short. We are a program that's housed under Feeding Florida, which is a nonprofit throughout the state of Florida that works with 9 network food banks in order to try to prevent and stop hunger. So that's our primary mission. And the program Fresh Access Bucks actually started about 10 years ago. As I mentioned, it's a statewide program. It actually initiated under Florida Organic Growers. And a few years into the program, decided Feeding Florida would be the better fit for a long-term plan for this program. And so it shifted over under USDA funding in the next grant cycle and has moved to Feeding Florida. So we have been operating this program, as I mentioned, for probably the last 7 or 8 years now. And this just shows a little bit of how it works. And I'm, of course, going to go into this in much more detail. But from a customer perspective, you know, this is one of the promotional materials that we use. And basically, all a customer needs to do is find a provider outlet or one of our program partners, which might be some of you in the future. And so they will look up on our map, find a location near them. They just need to shop with their SNAP EBT card. And when they do, they get matched dollar for dollar. And there are caps, and I'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the different models. But they can shop and receive a dollar for dollar match that can be used on fresh Florida grown fruits and vegetables, and as well as seeds and starter plants that produce fruits and vegetables as well. So that's a really nice benefit for them. And on the other side, everyone is still getting paid fair value for their products. So it's a win-win. We are USDA funded and have been since the start of our program. So this just gives an overview or a snapshot of where we are right now. We are expanding our program. And so, as I mentioned, we are a statewide throughout the state of Florida program. And right now we have the majority is under farmers markets. That's how the program initially started with Florida Organic Growers, and many of the nutrition incentive programs out there started. And we are, moving into other models as well, and have been in other models over the past year. So we do also have farm stands and direct farmers. We have mobile markets. We work with community supported agriculture or CSA models. And we also work with small community grocers and other types of retail outlets. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how Fresh Access Bucks works at some of these different outlet types. I know we have a lot of different representatives in our audience today, so I just want to make sure that we cover, hopefully if it will cover all of the different kinds of models that are out there. So at farmers markets, it's, as Lisa mentioned earlier, a lot of our farmers markets tend to set up with a centralized booth for SNAP and Fresh Access Bucks all in one. So if a customer comes and they want to shop with SNAP and Fresh Access Bucks, all they have to do is go to that booth, swipe their EBT card, and Lisa already showed you some of the great tokens and other scripts out there that are being used. So what will happen is if a customer, for example, says, I want to spend $20 on my EBT card today, they'll get $20 worth of SNAP tokens, which are in one color. And then they'll also receive on top of that a $20 match of the Fresh Access Bucks tokens that can be used for that fresh Florida grown produce, as well as the seeds and the starter plants that I mentioned. And so they will just take those tokens. Typically, they'll go shop with the vendors around the market, and then the vendors would turn their tokens into the market manager or whoever is responsible for SNAP and Fresh Access Bucks. The market then reimburses the vendor, and we reimburse the market. And we do that on a weekly basis to make sure that everyone is, maintaining their cash flows. So that's at farmers markets. Lisa already went over a lot of this, so I can skip a good chunk of it, but as she mentioned, SNAP can be used for the majority of food items, except for prepared foods that are meant to be consumed on site. It can't be anything for pet consumption. It has to be human consumption, and it cannot be spent on non-food items. And as I've already mentioned, Fresh Access Bucks can be used for Florida grown fresh fruits and vegetables, plants and seeds that will produce food to eat as well. The SNAP tokens for farmers markets are specific to the market, can only be used there, but Fresh Access Bucks tokens can be used at any of our farmer market sites throughout the state. So folks can easily use those if they're traveling or if they've moved or something like that. Those will never expire, so as long as our program is funded. Now at farm stands, CSAs, and mobile markets, we work on a little different model. Here we work on a direct discount. And so to keep it easy, we say if their dollar total is half or more of Florida grown fruits and vegetables, then they just get a half off discount of their order total. If it's less than half, then they just receive that Florida grown produce for free. So we try to simplify it that way. Now with all of our farm direct outlets, so that includes farmers markets, farm stands, CSAs, and mobile markets, we have a $40 match, and that's per day. So a customer, if you are open every day of the week and they want to come and match $40 every day and they have the benefits to do so, they can do that. And in our retail models, as I'll talk about it in a minute, is a little different as far as the match. So. And then finally, our community grocery stores or small retailers works typically more on a loyalty system. And so a customer will come in, they will shop, use their EBT card, and then they will earn for their next visit. And they can earn up to $10 and match per day in retail stores. But again, they can visit every day and do that if they wanted to. This is just a visual showing what is supported under SNAP EBT and what customers can buy using Fresh Access Box. So just a little different way of presenting that information for our visual learners. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about our impacts over the state. So you can see here, we have all the way back to 2013 when we were under Florida Organic Growers. You can see the sharp increase, unfortunately, with the COVID-19 pandemic. So we jumped in and did our best to support by offering, earlier in the pandemic, we offered unlimited matches. Of course, customers were getting more benefits with the pandemic relief. But unfortunately, we've seen a little bit, well, fortunately and unfortunately, we've seen a little bit of a drop off here. It'll be interesting to see how 2023 plays out. I imagine it'll be pretty similar to 2022, but as we grow and bring new outlets on and expand throughout the state, we may see that number go up as well. And this just kind of breaks it down to what does this actually mean. So we've seen in 2021, for example, we had over 750,000 was spent on Florida grown produce just using Fresh Access Box. And so what that equivalates to is almost 289,000 daily servings of fruits and vegetables that were purchased with Fresh Access Box. And if you look at SNAP and FAB both, over 1.5 million was purchased of local food in that year for our partners alone. So that means that translated into over 473,000 meals that was purchased with SNAP and FAB. So pretty significant impacts for folks in our state, as well as the folks who are selling our food. This is showing our community grocery. We did start this program in 2020 and piloted throughout the end of 2020 into 2021. When we first started our retail program, we also had Hitchcock's, which is a pretty major rural retailer here in Florida. And so you can see this huge amount. They actually blasted through our funding in like no time. And so unfortunately, we are now working with smaller grocery stores, but we are also looking towards the legislature to see if we can also get some retail support from there. So time will tell. And from our retail program in 2021, huge impacts here as well. So over 600,000 was spent on fresh fruits and vegetables. Y'all can read those numbers of what that translates into. And then over 8 million in groceries were purchased with SNAP and FAB with our community grocery store partners in 2021. So just some of the general benefits of nutrition incentive programs. There's lots of these types of programs out there throughout the United States. As I mentioned, Fresh Access Box is the only one for the state of Florida that works as a SNAP nutrition incentive. There may be others out there that work on incentives for some of the other federal food assistance benefit programs. But overall, the Nutrition Incentive Hub, which is our technical support and evaluation support that oversees all of the grantees for the USDA who receive funding to provide these nutrition incentives, they found that people who participated in nutrition incentive programs increased their intakes of fruits and vegetables greater than the average American adult. Increased fruits and vegetable purchases among SNAP recipients are expected and have been shown to lower risks of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease, as well as to lower rates of obesity. So a lot of health benefits to, of course, eating fruits and vegetables and healthier foods. And estimates have shown that SNAP nutrition incentives like Fresh Access Box have the potential to save over $1.2 billion in healthcare costs by providing greater access to fruits and vegetables. So we not only have the potential to affect people in the real and the now and the here, but also looking at our overall healthcare expenditures as a country and just the overall impacts in the future. This just is a different way of showing some of those impacts. So, you know, we've talked about food insecure families and how that helps there. Lisa mentioned, you know, the potential to bring in increased sales, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. But, you know, for producers and farmers and small businesses who are offering SNAP and Fresh Access Box, you are, you know, of course, providing more for your local communities, but also supporting your own business and bringing additional income into your business. That also supports the local economy. So we see with nutrition incentive programs like our own, we see overall healthier communities, healthier healthier economies, and just overall better food system, more local and, you know, supported within the local communities. And so right now, we are, of course, as I mentioned, expanding our program throughout the state, even more than representative of where we are right now. The farm direct outlets that we are recruiting, we are also looking for retail, but all of these outlets would need to be located in Florida, of course, since this is a Florida program. You would need to sell Florida grown produce to be eligible, have the ability to reach low income communities to provide that support, currently be SNAP authorized or in the process of becoming SNAP authorized. So we really do want to see that you are in that process, because it is a SNAP nutrition incentive program. And so if you're not SNAP authorized, you just can't offer the incentive. So you have to at least be in that process. Provide a welcoming and inclusive space for all shoppers, and then also have the ability to just track your data and also to promote SNAP and FAB at your outlet. So our partner requirements, so this may look scary. I don't want to scare any of you off. We support and help through all of this. So, but you would need to identify as a member of the FAB network. That's usually a low-hanging fruit, pretty easy. Be able to track your data, and we would provide the system for you to do that in. We do a one in-person training per year for our partners. This year we are actually moving back to an in-person, and since we require this, we do provide reimbursement for hotel and travel. So for wherever we are having the training. So for example, this year we're doing Jacksonville. Any partner outside of Jacksonville would get their hotel accommodations and their mileage reimbursed at the current reimbursement rate. We do have monthly calls once a month. And so we do ask our partners to participate in these as much as they're able. We do understand that, you know, things are busy. Everyone's wearing many hats. But so we do provide a digest and a recording if you're unable to make it, but we just know the calls are better if our partners are able to bounce ideas off of each other and brainstorm and just share expertise and best practices. So we try to get as many folks to come to those as we can. And then we do ask all of our partners to complete 6 nutrition education activities per year. And those could be as easy and simple as sharing recipe cards for healthy recipes, or maybe showing, you know, what a meal someone could put together on using $10 with SNAP and FAB, and here's what they could get from your outlet to do a healthy meal. Or it could be, you could, you know, if you were really creative and wanted to put something really big together, you could do a cooking demonstration or a workshop. But this just all goes to say that it could be as simple as you need it to be, or as complex as you want to make it. So it sounds scary to have to do that, but it's pretty easy for most folks, because a lot of our partners are doing e-newsletters or blasting on social media or sharing recipe cards. So participate in our program evaluation. So this is a requirement by the USDA for us to do each year. And so, and then we also, of course, want to hear from our partners about the program and what's going well and maybe what needs improvement so that we can, of course, just continue making the program better. If we have any statewide outreach campaigns, we just ask that you help share the word on that. And then we do ask for an annual membership fee. It is actually part of our USDA grant to show that, as well as it always goes back into the program. And so for the membership fee, it is directly only from the amount of Fresh Access Bucks that you actually sold to customers. And so that number is figured only from that number, so not from SNAP combined or not from Fresh Access Bucks issued but not turned in. So it's only from what you've sold in the last fiscal year. And then it basically goes back into the program to support the program with our partners and with mini grants and other program types of needs and things. So benefits to you. Why would you want to go through all of this? Big question, right? So first and foremost, our partners report, of course, increased sales from offering SNAP and Fresh Access Bucks because they are connecting with a different segment of the population to be able to diversify their customer base and to bring in more sales. We provide support for Florida farmers through our programming, as well as providing new avenues for promotion and ways to reach out. There is the potential for positive media exposure. Already mentioned attracting new customers. You have expanded fundraising opportunities, and we do also provide technology support. So if your equipment goes down, or if you need to issue manual vouchers because your EBT equipment went down and is not going to function that day, then we can support you with all of that, as well as any other technology needs or questions or any other support you need with either program. So if you are interested in applying, or if you know of someone that might be a good fit, I'm going to share in the chat in just a minute the application link as well as the recommendation link. So if you are ready to apply because you are in the process of becoming SNAP authorized very soon, you can go ahead and fill out the application. It is a little bit lengthy because we want to make sure that the partners we bring into our program are going to be a good fit for the program, since it's a bit of work for the onboarding process. So we just want to make sure. So once you apply, we would review your application and then just reach out to set up a phone call with you to talk a little bit more in detail. And then if our team determines that your business might be a good fit for the program, we would come out and do a site visit with you. And so that's just a little bit about how the process works. I've put up our contact information for our whole team here. There are only 5 of us, so and we all support different regions of the state. I handle Northwest and Central Florida, but I am happy to take any questions from any of y'all if you want to email me. And if I need to, direct you to a different contact, I can do that. But most likely, if you have general questions, any of us can help you. So I just wanted to share that, as well as our social media links down there and our website. And that is it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop those 2 links into the chat, and I'll turn it back over to Trent at this point.
Yeah, I dropped in some links about some future program we have for your IFAS extension, but I think we can get to questions because we're almost at the end, and there was a couple questions in the chat that I would like to bring up. So the first question is from Frank, and he says, a great program for communities. I think this one's for Adelia. Communities a bit isolated or food deserts. Is there a specific process to determine what communities the program should be established? For example, if there's an analysis of the needs of the community and the farms are encouraged to participate in that area?
Yeah, I love that question. And I love that question because a colleague of mine and myself actually just went through a whole process of kind of revamping our recruitment and onboarding. And so what we have done is create something that kind of is able to calculate out based on community needs in different areas in conjunctions with different certain qualities that we're looking for with our partner outlets, to be able to kind of look at that more from the data perspective rather than, okay, we feel like this person will be a good fit. Of course, we get some of that too, because deep down, you know, you have to just feel like it's right. And so, but we also want to be more intentional with the way that we are doing things so that we are supporting our communities that are in need, and also reaching out to farmers and other types of outlets that could work with our program. And so that is going to be, as I mentioned, we've just completed this and have rolled it out like last month. And so we are going to be using that to be able to work towards recruitment as well. So very good question. Thank you.
Okay, so I think this one's more for Lisa. Online SNAP, can that be incorporated with the farm's web store? That's from Paradise Farms.
The short answer is eventually. Currently, we're working with GrownBy, who is our e-commerce provider that we are testing the pilot program with. So as we accept applications initially, it will only be to be set up with GrownBy. But once we have like the system officially working, we're going to slowly start adding other e-commerce providers that will include a way to integrate it directly into your own website. So unfortunately, it will probably be a while out. But again, the best way to keep in touch with that is to sign up for our newsletter. And hopefully that will be an option sooner than later. But as you can imagine, this process is very complicated. The USDA has very strict standards for SNAP, especially for online. So we need to make sure at least one works first before adding other variables. And unfortunately, it takes time. So yeah, again, long story short, eventually.
Okay, if there's not any more questions, we are now at 10 o'clock. Delia and Lisa both put their information in the chat. I'll put mine there as well. My work is different than yours. I work on markets and developing markets for our growers, but you're willing to reach out to me on anything working with the economics and farming. But we really appreciate both our speakers today for sharing their experiences with us in Florida.